What's good, church? Do me a favor and hit that like button for me. But y'all go ahead and share this. We're gonna jump right into it. We ain't gonna waste no time. Puffy don't get a break. Puffy is indicated 77 times in a new trial, in a new Tupac murder trial. Well, hearing. It's in court documents that Puffy is indicated 77 times. Puffy don't get a break. Keefe D trial. Keefe D was arrested. This to give you a little update if you don't know about this. A little backstory. Keefe D was arrested. Now, Keefe D is a known gang member. And, he was like Suge Knight. He was a terrorist gang member, in the court documents say. And Keefe D last year was arrested. He went on multiple platforms. First of all, he went on multiple platforms admitting, and even wrote a book about how he killed Tupac, how they did, on multiple interviews, global. And he got arrested last year for the murder of Tupac, coincidentally. And his trial date is set, I think, for November the 3rd, but it was a court hearing yesterday that this hundreds of document page court documents indicating Puffy's name. Let me let y'all see this.
And wild allegations tonight in the 27-year-old Tupac Shakur murder case. According to new court documents obtained by News 3, Dwayne Keefe D. Davis accuses hip-hop mogul Sean Diddy Combs of paying $1 million in a plot to kill Tupac. Good evening, everyone. I'm Jim Snyder.
And I'm Marie Mortera. Now the lieutenant, first on scene that night, almost 30 years ago, was speaking out. News 3's Kalia Patterson joining us here with his response to those accusations.
Jim, Marie, Dwayne Davis, also known as Keefe D, says that rapper Sean Diddy Combs was also involved in that murder of Tupac Shakur. Now, the officer who last spoke to Tupac says that does not add up with the evidence.
How long would you expect, the rest of the world and the criminal justice system to all sit around and do nothing?
Former Las Vegas Lieutenant Chris Carroll sits down with News 3, unfazed by new court discoveries in the Tupac Shakur murder case. New court documents show that Dwayne Keefe D. Davis accused hip-hop mogul Sean Diddy Combs of paying $1 million for the killing of the rap icon Tupac Shakur. According to the documents, Davis claims Combs paid Eric Von Martin the money.
I just don't see any proof of it. I don't see it leading anywhere other than the real story, which is that the murder took place with Orlando Anderson.
Davis also claims Combs offered to set up a phone call with Terrence Brown. Brown was the driver of the car that drove by with bullets flying out to Shakur and Suge Knight on the Las Vegas Strip, September 7th, 1996.
There's really not even a motive there. The whole East Coast, West Coast thing. It was a thing in the 90s, but it certainly was no reason to put $1 million hit on somebody. I think the fact to say that Diddy is part of it, Diddy paid $1 million, I think it just makes for a good story.
Davis is also having trouble getting his bond paid. A friend of Davis's, another music executive, tried to pay it, but the judge denied the payment because she didn't know where the money came from. Prosecutors argued if Davis is set free on bail, he would sell his life story involving Tupac as income while he was on trial. Davis's attorney said that's not legal.
In regards to any restrictions that money is for his life story, again, as Your Honor just noted, it's very limited that at this point, since he's not convicted, you cannot tell Mr. Davis he cannot receive those monies. He can receive any monies in regards to this crime until he's convicted.
Carroll says the story is cut and dry and should be laid to rest.
Will it bring closure to the case? No. Regardless of whether he's found guilty or not guilty, the conspiracies will still continue. And unfortunately, I don't think it's really going to change anybody's mind much, regardless of what happens.
Really?
The judge over this case will make a decision on Davis's bail this week. Live in studio, Khalil.
Really? Okay. Now let's go back to check out the confession. Keefe D's confession.
The $1 million question. We asked Keefe D the $1 million question. On all four of those occasions, there's San Diego, Anaheim, Irvine, and Vegas. Which ones do you actually talk to Puffy at?
Every one.
Every one of them. Which of those four is it when you talk to him about murdering Tupac?
It was really about both of them. Either one. It was
Tupac and Suge, you mean?
Yeah, Anaheim.
After a concert in Anaheim, Keefe D claims that he attended a party with Puffy in a hotel suite. So it's Harrell, you, Puffy, Zip, and a bunch of Southsiders. And what Puffy makes kind of an announcement?
Yeah, that was stupid as hell, you know.
What did you actually hear? What was the words, if the best you can remember what he says?
Shit, he said he'd give us anything for them dudes, you know? Yeah.
We'll give you anything for these guys' head?
Yeah.
You heard that in that confession. So he's confessing to the police that he would give anything for them dudes' heads, meaning in Tupac. Tupac said, and they said no motive. Yeah, heck yeah, the East Coast West Coast thing. Yes, that was motive because they were terrorizing Diddy. They was picking on him. They was punking him. Who would have think that a soft guy like Diddy anyway? Like he just danced on the video. He wasn't no gangster rapper. Who would think that he would put a hit out on somebody? So it wasn't even plausible back in the day to even think that P. Diddy was capable of putting a hit out on on Pop. So what's to come to this? I think that, and I believe that Keefe D, I don't know what's going on. He's going to implicate. I believe he would. I don't know if time could tell if he a snitch or whatever. He gonna snitch on himself. He's pleading not guilty in this case. But they are using his confession to the detective against him in this 77-page document, I believe, in this court document. And they using this And the thing about when they use that, what did this do to Diddy? What did this do to Diddy? It brings P. Diddy into it. It brings P. Diddy into being in question. I mean, could P. Diddy possibly be, could P. Diddy possibly be subpoenaed in this trial in some kind of way? I mean, P. Diddy cannot get a break. And do I believe that P. Diddy is capable of, hell yeah, I believe this. So, got a comment. What's good, Rob? I mean, and the courts is using P. Diddy. I guess here's a little bit with the trial right here. This just a little bit of the hearing. This was yesterday, I believe.
Account or their records to indicate that this was a legitimate business. Those were the factors that we were trying to get from the source here.
Right, in
And
federal court, but we don't have any sort of statute or case that says anything about what our source hearings look like.
Right, but we do have those concerns met in this instance. That is, we have a legitimate business, number one. We have entity, 100 Entertainment, that has been in business prior to the beginning of this case. We have another entity, AG Entertainment Touring, that was in existence prior to the beginning of this case. They made payment to 100 Entertainment in the amount of the bail. Again, for reasons known to Mr. Jones, he asked for that specific amount, and there's nothing illegitimate that the state has pointed out in regards to that transaction. And so since there's nothing illegitimate about that transaction, that satisfies the requirements for the Nebia hearing. Him being a notorious gang leader, that shouldn't deter the court from allowing him to be free. He was a notorious gang leader in 2008. Those days are long gone. He was a law-abiding citizen for many years here in Las Vegas. And so he should be able to go back and again tell those stories. We are not protecting the public from anything. What we have to do again is to make sure that he's going to be present, number one, and that number two, that the community is going to be safe. He has not violated the law in any way. He hasn't put out a hit. We don't know the validity of this FBI moving a witness and how that witness was going to be in danger. There's no indication that Mr. Davis has any power with any gang or any people out there to go ahead and order a hit or anything like that. And so those are all speculation by the state and should not be considered in a Nebia hearing, which should just be the focus. Do we have legitimate sources?
Okay. State, did you want to be heard regarding your counter argument?
Yes, Judge.
On motion, I apologize.
And I'll be brief as it relates to that. Yeah, there has been a significant change in circumstances. You know, obviously the state disagreed with the court's prior ruling, but I think there was probably two reasons behind it. One was, look, there's a number of statements by the defendant, but what exactly is the corroboration? And then the other one is one I don't quite grasp from a legal standpoint, but the temporal relationship between the arrest and the crime, right? That 27 years kind of something about it. But when you look at our motion to reconsider, there's only one temporal relationship that really matters, which is in 2006, there is a live witness who puts the 4 people the suspect says in Las Vegas, leaving to go harm Suge and Tupac Shakur. That witness is corroborated by records from a hotel that establishes he was here, and we know that he's a member of this gang. But the most important temporal relationship here is he makes that statement 2 years before any confession the defendant ever made. And that's the reason why I put the 2008 in there. And I know there may be some litigation about what exactly that 2008 statement may or may not be used for. But certainly in 2009, when he makes a fully admissible confession to those facts, he puts the same 4 people in the car that an eyewitness has him leaving a bar to go harm Tupac and Suge night, on the night in question. So now it's not just a guy who's confessed 37,000 times to killing Tupac Shakur. You now have corroboration long before he ever said that from a witness that he wouldn't have known. And I suggest to you, there are a few cases where you can get a full confession and not have the proof as evidence presumption is great. I understand why in this case the court probably had some reticence. But now that we know that there is a live witness that places Mr. Davis with the 3 other suspects leaving to harm Mr. Shakur long before he ever confessed, the proof has to be evident and the presumption must be great at this point. And I would submit it to the court.
Can you just answer for me why this wasn't presented at the bail hearing?
I can. We didn't have these records. There was, I don't want to say a lack of cooperation necessarily from law enforcement in other jurisdictions during the course of this, but this has been a highly complex situation involving Christopher Wallace, the lawsuits, and getting those records. Ultimately, we just received, as I put in the motion, between the time of the last bail hearing and the time of this court, this particular hearing, we just received an enormous amount of records that we supplied over to Mr. Arnold from the Christopher Wallace investigation. And this report was within those thousands and thousands of pages that we had. And then we went out. There are other confirming people, but the only one we can establish that this witness is currently still alive at this point is this particular witness. There are other things that fully corroborate the story that Mr. Davis said long before Mr. Davis ever said them. It's just at this point, we have not yet confirmed that we have a live witness that can actually testify to it. And I put that in the motion as well.
Okay. Mr. Arnold.
I don't understand. We're talking about Corey Edwards, right?
That's the witness that we.
Right. And he's not alive?
He's alive.
Okay. And so, in regards to Mr. Edwards, again, gave a statement in 2006 that he identified the 4 people that were in the car and he identified them in Vegas. That is not a change of circumstances in regards to this case that was under the meaning of the Nevada Rule 7B that the court can reconsider its bail. Basically, all he did was corroborate what has been said by Mr. Davis in his multiple interviews and by the state in their presentation of the case. And so a corroborating witness, that happens all the time. It shouldn't cause the court to go back and review its bail. Mr. Edwards, he's not reliable. He made this almost 10 years, this statement 10 years after the incident. And so, bottom line, he could have heard that through hearsay, rumors, I don't know how he came up with this information, but that's subject to cross-examination.
Oops. Error occurred. Hold on, let me see if I can get y'all out of that video. See if I could just.
When I was accepted to SGU, that was one of the greatest days of my life.
The faculty at SGU.
Yep, there we go. I just had to refresh your boy.
Almost 10 years, this statement 10 years after the incident. And so, bottom line, he could have heard that through hearsay, rumors. I don't know how he came up with this information, but that's subject to cross-examination at the time of trial, and it shouldn't be considered to look at the bail again. Again, as you stated, Your Honor, he has a presumption of innocence. We should be allowed to discuss that presumption of innocence at the time of trial, but still, we can't just shirk it aside for the sake of this statute of Nevada that allows us to look at this. To abide by that decision and remember that my client is presumed innocent.
All right. Excellent arguments on both sides. Ultimately, this is a little bit more wide-ranging, especially from the defense perspective, of what was covered in the briefing. So there's a couple things I need to look at before I issue an order, okay?
One last thing, Your Honor, I apologize. Someone provided me with the site. It was 102 Nevada 928. I apologize.
I did find that one.
Oh, okay.
So thank you, though. Thanks for looking that up. All right, I'll let you guys know the next day or two, my opinion or my decision regarding both. Thank you. We talked a little bit about discovery. Anything else? That Christopher Wallace discovery seems pretty wide ranging.
I think we have turned over everything. We do have one last thing that was turned over to us that we need to review. I don't think it has anything relevant to Mr. Shakur's murder. It involves a totally different case, but I just want to, and I've gone through about 2/3 of it. Haven't seen anything that we need to disclose, but I'm working diligently to make sure that even through this unrelated case file, it was turned over to us. So I want to go through it and personally make sure that Mr. Arnold does anything that would be exculpatory or inculpatory.
Okay. Mr. Arnold, how are you progressing toward that November 3rd trial date?
I'm concerned about this box. I just want to see it. I mean, we just got the box, the Greg Keating box that he was talking about. We're going through it. We should have our review done before the end of the summer. I'm just concerned another box comes and we have to do further investigation.
You can say he represents you, so ultimately you represent yourself. You can talk it well, but I think we're done. The 30-day status check then on trial readiness. And it'll be August 20th.
Address the court.
I think we're done.
I got something to say.
You want to say it to Mr. Arnold, and he can say he represents you, so ultimately you represent yourself. You can talk it well, but
Mr. Greg Hayden had them pockets at his house for 15 years in his attic, doing all kind of TV interviews. That the boxes should not be allowed in the cases.
Just gonna talk about it.
Yeah, the boxes should not be allowed. The tainted evidence, everything. The man, he broke a proffer agreement, and he broke the law, all kind of stuff.
A proffer agreement. Y'all know what a proffer agreement is. Just look it up. What a proffer agreement. Proffer agreement is basically a agreement in which you cannot be convicted on if you admit to a murder. So if you admit to a murder, even though you did it, I don't care if it's true, or not. If it's true and you know you did it and your fingerprints is all on it, even though you admit to it, you will not be convicted. That's a proffer agreement. So he's using the property agreement that was violated, that the courts is using against him. Like the court can't use this property, even though he admitted to the murder, even though he admitted that P. Diddy had something to do with this murder, right? Even though he admitted that P. Diddy paid him, this property agreement was violated, and it is against the law. I don't care if he admitted it. That's what it is. The profit agreement states that you cannot prosecute uh, under no circumstances.
The boxers should not be allowed. They've been at his house for 15 years, and they do interviews, going in the boxes. Let me see here. Ooh, you can see it on any internet site that this man been going in the boxes for years, and he's a and a judge, federal judge in LA did a 142 page thing about him. Look it up on the internet.
So I think what the state said ultimately is that they don't think there's gonna be anything in those boxes that they're gonna use.
You just use something in the boxes. They just used something in the boxes from 1996. And they know what they did.
Yeah, no, certainly we are.
They're not only ugly on the outside, but they're ugly on the inside. They crashing my family in this. They did my daughter first. They did my son. Then they just did my wife the last year. What's the name? Told me about these. David Westbrook told me about these dudes. He said they're not only ugly on the outside, but they ugly on the inside too. These two dudes right here.
All right. At this point, there's nothing before me to exclude any sort of evidence. There's been no motion filed about the proffer. I don't know if Mr. Arnold plans on challenging that or not. Ultimately, that decision is up to him. So we'll see.
Wow, so he might have an edge in this. The proper agreement was based on, no matter what he said, like I said, what a proper agreement was, the definition was a proper agreement of him admitting that he killed Tupac. Him admitting, so they can't use that against him. So he violated it. So Diddy on the other end, P. Diddy on the other end, was mentioned from these lawyers who is using his statement on Diddy putting $1 million on Pac's head. They using that, but how could they use that if it was a profit agreement, right? So it don't matter what he said or what he admitted to. The profit agreement, which it's against the law. If it's a profit agreement, no matter what you admit to, you cannot be convicted, and they can't use that against you in court, no matter if you came out in the public. All of that could be true, what Keefe D said, but it was a profit agreement was made that he was immune to any admission of guilt, and this is why he did it. I don't believe that Keefe D would have said anything if it wasn't for the proper agreement. If it wasn't agreed that in the law that it says a profit agreement is made, you cannot convict or use it in the courts. So this thing may be true about Diddy. Yeah, P. Diddy. Ah, my God, P. Diddy. P. Diddy is facing so much time. P. Diddy, when they get P. Diddy, he ain't getting out. He is never going to get out of jail. They're going to bury P. Diddy in jail. He's facing all type of lawsuits, and pretty soon charges is coming. I mean, it could be charges coming up in the Keefe D case. Who knows? If they could use that to convict Keefe D, then they could very much bring P. Diddy into this, which P. Diddy can also serve life in prison for setting up Tupac, for paying for the murder of Tupac. Actually, P. Diddy will be doing more time. Keefe D probably himself would probably only do about 10, 15 years. P. Diddy is going to do the max because he was the one that paid for the murder. We'll see. November 3rd. We're going to keep y'all updated on this case, the Keefe D case. Tupac Shakur, I don't know if anybody follow that. That's a very interesting trial. Subscribe to Law and Crime. Yeah, they got all the cases. Every single case you want to see, they got it. Law and Crime got it. Now to another story I want to tackle before I get up out of jail. A mail carrier was killed. A female mail carrier was killed. Postal worker in Chicago, believed by random gangs, or could it be somebody that's close to her? If y'all didn't see this story in Chicago, it is very heartbreaking.
New information about a postal worker who was shot and killed earlier this week. Now you're looking at video of what appears to be a burned out white Dodge Durango spotted on the south side. Chicago police are investigating whether this is the vehicle they've been looking for in connection to the shooting death of Octavia Redmond. Fox 32's Nate Rogers is following up on this story. He has the very latest. Nate?
Throughout the day, grief counselors were at the post office where Octavia Redmond worked out of. This as detectives continue to look into her affiliations and wonder if she was, in fact, targeted. They're also combing through lots of Ring doorbell video that was captured near the scene.
White Dodge Durango that fled that scene.
New today, a white Dodge Durango believed to be the getaway car in the murder of 48-year-old postal carrier Octavia Redmond discovered torched here at 89th and South Holland Avenue.
It's just shocking. I mean, they're doing their job.
This neighbor didn't want to be identified, but told me Redmond had just delivered mail to her home. Seconds later, she heard at least 8 gunshots while in the kitchen.
And so I came up to the living room and I looked out this window and I didn't see anything. Then I looked out the side window and I saw her laying on the ground. And I'm like, that's the postal worker.
Happened here at 121st and South Harvard just after 11:30 a.m. Friday. Police say the gunman jumped in a car and quickly left the area. This is, in fact, the exact house that it happened at. Sources telling us that the killer followed Redmond onto the property. She was shot multiple times. Her items were laying right here in front. Sources telling us it does not appear to be a robbery.
There's no need for that type of violence against people who are doing their jobs.
Have you ever had an issue where somebody was following you, or?
I had an issue where some people were like stealing packages, like following my truck and wait till I drop it off and then take it.
The murder of the beloved wife, mother, and extraordinary cook comes after other attacks on postal workers locally and nationally. 27-year-old Caleb delivers packages for Amazon along the same route. Safety is always his greatest concern.
I got to come out here every day and do my job, so I was kind of concerned, you know. I kind of didn't want to come to work today.
I have talked to law enforcement, elected officials, any and everybody about the attack on letter carriers, and that enough is enough and something needs to be done.
And we did reach Octavia Redmond's husband by phone. He declined an interview at this time, simply asking for privacy. There remains a $250,000 cash reward by the U.S. Postal Inspection Service for information that leads to an arrest and conviction in this case. That number on your screen right now. For tips, 877-876-2455. The Postal Inspection Service reminds us that tips will be kept strictly confidential. But as the ladies here.
Oops. Now, it wasn't a robbery, right? They just went up to her and shot her. So it could be only two scenarios. It was a gang initiation, or her husband did it. I didn't say it either. Either it was a gang initiation or her husband did it. I'll be back for that live tomorrow. That's a snippet to tomorrow's live. Join me tomorrow. I'm getting the hell up out of here. Just to give you a little update, Keefe D, Tupac murder trial, P. Diddy, name was implicated 77 times. And to give you a snippet on tomorrow's live, pending breaking news. But join me tomorrow. Hit that like button, subscribe button, notifications. It's a lot of suspicion in this case. And this case is news going viral all over the internet. And we're gonna dig deep in this tomorrow. Hit that like button, join the live. I appreciate everybody for joining. My brother Rob, anybody else, the like button. I'm out of here. Tomorrow, we back at